Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about Kagurabachi, Chapter 67. Kind of a roundup of the recent Kagurabachi chapters. This time we got something that I'm actually really excited to talk about because it gives me an opportunity to talk about a more interesting topic than just whether or not the chapter is good. And we're going to be touching on something that I've always thought is Kagurabachi's biggest challenge, at least when it comes to being a long-running shonen. If it was going to be a short shonen, it wouldn't have been a big challenge. But really, what I think the best way to begin this part here is with a comment that I saw on Viz Media. So we have this person right here. Just my personal opinion, I love Kagurabachi as the next guy, but when the hairpin guy kills the hotel manager without much effort, I find it off-putting. Yeah, the bad guys have to be very talented to up the stake, but come on now. This is 150 years of history of some famous style versus a total lack of skills and experience in sword fighting and no magic for a sorcerer condition. It's utterly one-sided. This is like watching Power Rangers. If you're not a ranger, you are totally powerless and irrelevant. Or like One Piece, even if you're the strongest gladiator in history, if you're not strong, then God forbid, if you ever make the slightest impact on such. Okay, with the One Piece one doesn't really apply because like many minor characters always make an impact, or many of the side characters in an arc make impact in One Piece. That doesn't really count. This one also is another one that says was pretty cool. I don't like the guy is apparently somehow super duper, though I was expecting perhaps some sort of magic tech where he was consuming those he killed to get skills. Okay, pretty much again the justification of they don't feel very good about what happens in the chapter. There was I have to show an opposition side, right? I don't know why people are thrown off by Thingamajig's ability to dust the lobby. He was able to dodge Chihiro when he was wielding Enten. I think it's more of his unorthodox style and leaves others unable to combat him properly. Like you can throw your best attack, but if you can't comprehend attack is coming back at yourself, you get hit. Nah, see, skill versus innate talent. No. See, like this is where it kind of falls apart because the guy's got like size difference on him. He's got like you have Hirohiko acknowledging the weight difference and all that kind of stuff. Look, honestly though, like I understand the rhetoric because like at the end of the day, it's always about rhetoric. It's always about the way you argue something when it comes to these stories. You 100% could argue the idea that this kid is amazing and able to overcome a master of this hotel who's most likely had a lot of experience on the battlefield. But similarly, in another series, you could 100% have the rhetoric of my experience is able to overcome your incredible talent. And you know, if you've been reading, if you were watching this channel, you're probably a hardcore manga reader. You've probably seen that rhetoric all the time. The super skilled guy is able to overcome someone who just doesn't have the experience in the area. It's always an issue of the rhetoric. And that's the unfortunate thing. It's because it goes both ways, right? Like that's like where you have to take the step back. Now, you know, when it comes down to it though, as readers, we are 100% in our justification to argue either which way. If you come and you argue that Thingamajig over here deserves that win, you know what? If you use like the same rhetoric of like this is where just innate talent is able to overcome all, sure. Like honestly, I can't really stop you. I do think it's a little bit finicky with the stipulation that he can't use sorcery, because then it just makes this guy, the Reagan one sword style, it makes this guy seem stupid. Like it really makes me feel like this hotel is actually not all that great. So it really devalues everyone else. And at that point, that's where I want to talk about the big challenge in Kagurabachi. So when it comes to Kagurabachi, the fact that the swords were the pinnacle of power in the verse has always been very strange to me. Oh, not strange. I saw like the walls of the series with that statement, and for me it was always about like there is a limit. Like there's only a handful of people that actually are ever going to be relevant. And in the early Kagurabachi, you saw it. Now, what was interesting with Kagurabachi is that you have sorcery. And apologies because my memory is a little bit hazy, but I think we also have people running around with fragments of some power that are giving them boosts. And then, okay, so we have the sorcerers. We have now this whole thing about the true masters of sword styles. We have the enchanted blades. We have the enchanted blade equivalent that one person has. And so when it came to the power structure, I thought like, okay, maybe we have like hardcore sorcerers, but early in Kagurabachi, you see how badly one enchanted blade can ruin really high level sorcerers. So it's like, well, the sorcerers don't really matter. And you know, when we go back to Chihiro's problems, like he's been seeing a lot of his allies die. So like he has reasons to not really trust people to be able to stay alive when an enchanted sword is involved. But it really just goes to show the enchanted swords really throw everything out. there's just no overcoming them. And so what was really interesting is that in one of the recent chapters, I think it was chapter 66 or 65, we find out that there's an island and there are denizens of the island. And when I saw that, I thought like, okay, this is cool, because that's a potential avenue for powering up people if it's real. That's a potential avenue for giving us better enemies to be able to fight once we get out of the sword issue, unless we're ending the story with the destruction of all the swords or something like that. And that gave me hope. But then we come back to here, and we have the situation where you have a hotel that is kept in peace on the notion of someone's strength. And it just sucks that some random kid with a frail body is just able to like wipe out what is supposed to be the peacekeeper. And it's like, at the end of the day, you understand why it's happening, right? It's happening for this shot. It's happening for these two guys to face each other. That's why it's going down, because ultimately this just reflects what the story's about. The story is not about sword masters. The story is not about sorcerers who are able to make up the difference and fight with the enchanted swords. The story is about the enchanted swords and the people who wield them, and it's all centered around the enchanted swords, and maybe in the future it will be centered around the denizens of the island. And I feel that because that is such a strict hierarchy, it's why things like this happens, and it ultimately like makes me wonder, like, there is a ceiling to the escalation here unless we go down the route of that, the denizens of that island, and or we introduce more enchanted sword equivalents. But because of that hierarchy, we have to force this guy to be here. And the worst part about this is that this is also kind of like what isekais end up doing. When you have this guy coming in here, he knows nothing about the sword. He doesn't have his sorcery on him. He's able to overcome years and years of experience of a guy who probably enforces the rule of law in his hotel at least once a month. Point is, you have this situation coming in here, and it just makes the rest of the world feel lame. The rest of the world is like sucks compared to the godlike powers of the ones destined to hold the enchanted swords. And that's just a really unfortunate situation. Now, I won't lie to you guys, man. All right, I'm a biased guy. I'm super biased. I love when it comes to isekai, I never agree with the others who like dumbing down their worlds in order to justify their main character being amazing. I like it when worlds are competent and are able to do amazing things as well. I think the majority of people as well, when it comes to the normies, I think they like that too. I think that's why Slime is one of the most successful light novels. I think that's why Overlord is one of... I don't think... okay, the Overlord world is competent in some ways, but like I think it's just too overpowered. So let me scratch that. I think that's why people like Jobless Reincarnation. I think that's why Slime is at the top of the isekais, essentially, when you look at the manga sales and like the light novel sales. I think that's why Shield Hero was at the top and was like a great example back when it was running as a web novel. It's because all those universes have very competent worlds. When it comes to the worlds that are not competent in relation to the main character, if you're a hardcore isekai fan, you probably know all of them. You probably know them, but like the fact of the matter is that those worlds do not reach the level of Jobless Reincarnation or Slime when it comes down to their sales. And again, I think it's because those authors respect the world that their characters are put into and are able to like juggle that, or are able to balance those two things, the strength of the world and the strength of the character. I think that's great. So ultimately, like, know that I am biased 100% when it comes to this situation. And that's why, like, I see this chapter and it makes me think, like, yeah, I think this is a side effect of just having such a limited power structure. But again, if it's going to be a short series, and when I say short series, I would say, like, maybe let's say 200 chapters, probably end off at 250 or something like that. Where did Jujutsu end? It didn't have over 500, but yeah, no, like, 200 chapter series, I think that's fine. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy that Kagurabachi gave me something like that. Do we want to talk about the rest of the chapter? What can I say? It's an alright chapter. Ignoring the parts that I don't personally agree with. Okay, I have to like be really clear about this. I personally don't agree with it. I understand it though, because again, the story is about Chihiro and his little rival there. It's about the people destined to hold those blades. Alright, so you gotta like, you know, I have many different perspectives on this. If you ask me to like rate this on like perspective A, I can give you a rating. If you ask me to rate it for perspective B, I can give you a rating. Totally fine. It's a different style of story. I have to like be very clear. Like, I'm not saying that anyone is wrong for doing it the way they did it. I think it's a disagreement. Like, if you want to talk about like, are there ramifications to doing this approach? I think you got to remember that when it comes to like online anime content, people make fun of anime a lot. People like casuals will just don't need to see a lot to start making fun of things. And I think eventually when this gets an anime, there will be people who will echo what I'm saying here, and will use that as a slight against the series. I think when you like, I think that's pretty much all that really happens, is that you give naysayers like ammunition to like talk about like some flaw of the series or something like that, and they might be a little bit less charitable than I am or something like that. I want to point out that I'm a very neutral person in all of this, and I look at this and I'm actually just more curious about the future. I want to see how the author is going to navigate this limited power structure that they created, and that's like the part that's most interesting for me. I am very excited, and I see this as a side effect of the limited power structure. Honestly, the chapter was more of an opportunity for me to tell you guys about my biases. So there is a very strong emotional thing going on here with the girl, and her seeing Chihiro. Like, the big awesome shot for the chapter is definitely here. This one I don't think needs to be animated. Also, Chihiro loves chopping off people's arms, man. Like that arm flying, bro. But yeah, no, her seeing him there, like this shot in particular, like wow, that's an amazing shot, bro. Amazing shot. For this girl, I personally don't care about her. Like, to me, she just looks like a load. She's just gonna make things difficult. I think it'd be best for everyone if she just like eliminates all of her memories, because she'll just make the story harder. But hey, you know, like, difficulty in a story is like what makes the story happen in the first place. There's not really much else to cover here because it's pretty simple. Like, we have just more characterization for Chihiro. We kind of know what he is. It's very grounded, very good characterization, like always. Not very surprised there. But yeah, that was my thoughts for Kagurabachi, chapter 67. I do love looking at those comments. I do love that we are now in the area where there are the defenders and the counterers. I do love that we are Kagurabachi has gotten to that point of this not disclosure. I'm thinking too much about aliens, bro. Discourse. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below. Very cool chapter. Again, I'm so excited to see if there's going to be more side effects or more ramifications of having a limited power structure in the future. And yeah, guys, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. I'm also going to make a video for Ichi the Witch because I found that to be interesting as well.